Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You have heard this name a lot in the news lately. I made a post yesterday on Facebook, and I said in the post that I was not even going to offer my thoughts on this situation, because after watching the speech on the news from the mother of another woman who was murdered by an MS-13 gang member, I was so distraught that I knew that it was not the right time to comment on this issue. But today I want to discuss this a little bit more in hopes that we can bring some clarification to this situation. For those of you who are not aware, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen has traveled to El Salvador to try to free Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Why is this strange, you might ask? Why do you think that I am making a video about this particular issue and about this senator from Maryland traveling to El Salvador to free this prisoner that's imprisoned? As I have learned more about this case, I have really I don't know what other term to use besides dumbfounded at this entire situation. Let's start from the beginning. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an MS-13 gang member. Now, he has been labeled by a lot of the other news networks as a Maryland father, okay? While he may be a Maryland father, he may be married as he is and have kids in Maryland. He is far from a standout citizen. And I believe that a lot of these issues regarding this individual have not been brought to the forefront. And that's why I'm making this video, because I think it's important that people really know what's going on here. He's been arrested twice, first of all. Both times he was arrested for domestic violence. In the reports from the police, handwritten by his own wife, Abrego Garcia ripped her shirt off, ripped her shorts off, punched her in the face, and then scratched her body pretty severely. On top of that, he is an MS-13 gang member. For those of you who are not aware, MS-13 has been declared a terrorist network by the President of the United States. Now, people will say that he was accidentally deported to El Salvador. And while there are elements of truth about that, the Trump administration did admit that there was administrative error that took place. The fact is that he is an MS-13 gang member. He committed these acts of violence, and he was deported to El Salvador, which is where he belongs. When he was arrested, he was wearing a sweatshirt with rolls of money covering the eyes of 3 presidents, which is a known gang symbol for hear no evil, see no evil. I don't know the last part, but I apologize for that. He was also wearing a Chicago Bulls hat, a vintage Jordan era Chicago Bulls hat, which, if you're not aware, the MS-13 gang members wear that particular hat as a brazen testimony to the fact that they are members of MS-13. And lastly, when he was arrested with 2 other MS-13 gang members. So this is an MS-13 gang member who has committed acts of domestic violence not once but twice. If you're not sure, these were in May of 2021. And he also had a lawful deportation order signed by a judge. Now, the irony of this is that Maryland Senator, like I said, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen is going to El Salvador to try to free this man from prison and bring him back into the United States. I don't understand why this is an issue, why people don't understand why he's not being brought back to the United States. Ironically, the El Salvador president, Bukele, said flat out that he's not releasing Garcia and he's not letting him come back to the United States. Period. End of story. Last night when I was watching the news, Rachel Morin's mother was on the news to testify about how her daughter was killed. You may remember this crime that was committed also in Maryland. Rachel Morin was walking on a trail, a family trail that her and her family walked on, I don't know how many times throughout the years. It was a very safe place to be. Martinez was his last name, waited on the trail, knowing that she would walk out there by herself, and he brutally assaulted her, raped her, and killed her. Now, on my Facebook page, I have a link to the video where she spoke yesterday at the news briefing that the White House holds periodically. She was beaten so badly that there was not an inch of her body that did not have some kind of mark. And why am I tying these two together, by the way? Martinez was also an MS-13 gang member and also lived in Maryland. And do you think that the Senator Van Hollen has reached out to Patty Morin, the mother of Rachel Morin, to offer any condolences? No, he hasn't. But yet he's now going to a prison in El Salvador to free an MS-13 gang member. I digress. Back to Rachel Morin. There was part of as she described, sitting through the court testimony for I think it was 5 days, and saw all of the evidence. And she talked about how painful that was to see. And at one point, they showed a picture of a cement, I'm not going to get it right, a cement structure where Martinez threw her body against the wall. She was so bloodied that her entire body outline was painted on this concrete fixture. That's how bad the assault was. He raped her multiple times because she didn't die as he took all these different actions against her. At one point, he took rocks and smashed the skull of her face, fracturing her skull, breaking her nose. It was a horrific crime that nobody should ever have to endure. So what is my point to this video? What is this senator doing in El Salvador trying to free an MS-13 gang member that came from Maryland? And why has he offered no condolences to the family of Rachel Morin, who was so brutally murdered and raped by another MS-13 gang member? I believe that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is where he needs to be, which is in a prison in El Salvador. Enough is enough. And before anybody goes there, I don't normally make partisan, or I try not to make partisan videos. I try to leave them as bipartisan as possible. And some of you will say, but Jeff, Republicans have done the same thing. And maybe they have. And if they have, please give an example, because I'd like to know about it. I honestly would. I would like to know what Republican senators or Congress members have done things like this, where they have, I'm not sure the words I'm looking for, where they have failed to reach out to family members or failed or gone to another country to try to free a convicted, a person with a criminal history that has committed heinous crimes and is a known gang member, and that gang is is identified as a terrorist organization. Guys, these are my thoughts. I had to make a video about this because it is honestly just beyond my scope of understanding as to why all these senators suddenly want to go to El Salvador to try to free Garcia. That's all I have for today, guys. As always, I wish you all the best. Whether you agree with me or not, I wish you all the best. I hope that you have a terrific day, a terrific Friday, and a blessed weekend. Be blessed and be well, guys. Take care of yourselves.